Okay, let's unpack this. So for today's album quest, we are diving into something really specific, almost like a science experiment for music.
It really is. We're looking at this singular mission. One person trying to find the, quote, best album of all time.
Right, by putting their entire massive music library through this tournament. It's pretty intense.
Oh, it's brutal. And the methodology is what I find so fascinating. It's not just about what you like. It's about a system. He calls it a World Cup format.
A World Cup, okay. So what does that actually mean in practice?
Well, albums get drawn randomly, completely randomly, into groups of 4. And then the author, he doesn't just listen once. He listens to them over and over and over.
So it's a real deep dive on just those 4 albums.
Exactly. And after all that listening, they get ranked very strictly from 1st to 4th place. Only the top 2 move on. The other 2 are just gone.
High stakes. I like it.
Yeah.
So where are we jumping into this quest today?
We're looking at a single battle from the very first round. We are dissecting round 1, group 190.
Group 190. And you get this perfect little snapshot of the whole project's conflict, right? You have 4 totally different albums, different styles, all fighting to survive.
That's it. It's the perfect microcosm. You've got technical skill versus, I don't know, pure charisma.
Yeah, and you, the listener, really get to see how these sounds that would never normally be compared are suddenly forced to compete head-to-head.
And what a lineup for a group. I mean, on one hand, you have James Blunt. He's bringing that very soft contemporary folk pop sound.
And then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, Silverstein.
Right. Pure early 2000s post-hardcore intensity. So that's already a huge clash.
And the other 2 are? They're giants.
Absolute giants. You've got Eminem with a sequel to what many consider his masterpiece. And then you have Lady Gaga delivering this high-concept, super polished pop.
Okay, let's just list them out so everyone's clear. We're talking James Blunt's Moon Landing.
Lady Gaga's Art Pop.
Silverstein with When Broken is Easily Fixed.
And finally, Eminem's The Marshall Mathers LP2.
Wow. So, how did it shake out? I think we should just say it up front.
Yeah, let's lay out the roadmap. The results were pretty definitive. Lady Gaga and Eminem took the top 2 spots. They're the ones who progressed.
Which means James Blunt and Silverstein were left behind. And that's where we need to start, I think. Analyzing why they didn't make the cut.
Exactly. We start at the bottom. The albums that finished 4th and 3rd. They're these fascinating case studies in what fails under this kind of intense, repeated listening pressure.
It's not always about being a bad album, is it?
Not at all. I mean, these aren't necessarily poorly made records, but in the context of the quest, they just didn't have the longevity or the sheer impact to beat the other 2.
The context is everything.
Yeah.
All right, let's start at the very bottom then. 4th place. That went to Silverstein and their 2003 debut, When Broken is Easily Fixed.
And before we even get into this specific album, the author kind of sets the stage by talking about a previous encounter he had with the band.
Oh, right. Through that compilation album, 18 Candles. The early years.
Yeah, and that first impression, it really colored the whole experience for him. It was memorable, to say the least.
Memorable in a good way.
Not exactly. The one thing that stuck with him, his main takeaway, was, and I'm quoting here, that some of it sounds like genuine strangulation is occurring.
Genuine strangulation is occurring. Wow. That's not just a music review.
No, it's a physiological observation. It tells you everything you need to know, really. The author immediately flags this as music that is, in his words, on the shouty side.
Okay, so we need to put this in context for you, the listener. We're talking 2003. This is the peak of that emo, post-hardcore explosion.
It is, and the sound of When Broken is Easily Fixed is defined by that style. You have this constant balance, this back and forth between very melodic, clean vocals and then these raw, screamed parts.
And that strangulation quote that's aimed squarely at the screaming.
Absolutely. To an ear that's not used to that genre, that kind of intense screaming can sound, well, painful. Or just unrefined. It's a very specific tool for a very specific emotional effect.
And the song structures in post-hardcore, they're not straightforward verse, chorus, verse a lot of the time.
No, they're super dynamic. They'll shift from these really quiet, introspective moments to just huge, aggressive breakdowns on a dime. It's emotionally volatile music by design.
And Silverstein was right at the forefront of that sound in '03.
They were. Now, to be fair, the author does say this album isn't all bad. He gives it same credit.
He does. What did he like?
He points to a couple of tracks, specifically November and Bleeds No More. He says they're decent material.
And he said they had head-banging potential.
Yeah, which comes from that rhythm section, When the guitars get heavy and the drums lock in for those breakdowns, it works for the genre. It absolutely does.
And here's the key for the quest. When you have to listen to an album on repeat, that kind of constant emotional volatility can get really grating.
It can wear you down. And that's where the critique really shifts. It moves from the sound to the lyrical content.
Yes. The lyrics. He mentions the lead singer, Shane Told.
He does. He notes that Told seems to have emotional issues to work through.
Which is the classic critique of that whole era of emo, isn't it? The lyrics are just so raw, so dramatic, and focused almost entirely on personal pain.
Betrayal, insecurity, heartbreak. It's all there. And that's the point of the genre, that kind of therapeutic release. But for the author in this specific competition, it just didn't hold up.
It's hard to listen to that level of raw pain over and over when, your other option is a perfectly engineered pop hook from Lady Gaga.
Or the lyrical gymnastics of Eminem. It just feels less complex, less appealing for repeated listens.
So what was the final verdict?
It's pretty damning. The album is dismissed as a mildly interesting diversion at best.
Yeah, a diversion.
Yeah. It has energy, it has those genre thrills, but it didn't have the layers or the complexity to survive the first round. It was a clear, unambiguous fourth place.
The very thing that defines the genre, that intensity, became its biggest weakness in this format. Okay, so from the explosive, shouty world of Silverstein, we move up to third place. And it's a complete change of pace. We have James Blunt with Moon Landing.
And this is a totally different kind of failure. If Silverstein was too intense, this album was, well, maybe not intense enough. A failure of ambition, you could say.
The author's main point here is that Moon Landing isn't a bad album at all, but it's kind of stuck in the middle.
It's an album in transition. He's very deliberately moving away from the sound that made him a global star.
Right, that slow, haunting style from his first two records, the whole "you're beautiful, sensitive piano man" thing.
Exactly. He mentions that the album before this one, Some Kind of Trouble, was already pretty up-tempo.
And Moon Landing is his fourth album. So what's the shift here?
He slows it down just a little from Trouble, but the big change is textural. He introduces, and this is the key phrase, a little bit of a folk edge.
A folk edge. So he's trying to make it sound a bit more organic, grounded.
I think so. Moving away from just pure piano ballads into something that felt a bit more contemporary at the time.
And the lead single is the perfect example of this, right? Bonfire Heart.
It is. The author calls it the epitome of the change. It's got this mid-tempo folk pop acoustic rhythm. And there's a really interesting detail about who he wrote it with.
Oh, yeah?
Ryan Tedder, the frontman of One Republic.
Ah, okay. That explains a lot. Tedder is a machine when it comes to writing big, polished, radio-friendly hits.
He's a master of it. You take Blunt's earnestness and you pair it with Tedder's knack for these huge anthemic hooks. You get a very carefully crafted, very polished product.
So the folk edge isn't exactly raw and rustic.
Not at all. It's a very clean, very produced version of folk pop. The emotion is packaged perfectly for radio.
The author mentions a few other tracks, too, like Heart to Heart and Miss America.
Right, and they follow that same formula. It's his familiar emotional style, but it's filtered through this newer, less melancholy sound.
And he does try for a bit of depth thematically, doesn't he?
He does. The source points to the song Satellites. And the idea behind it is actually pretty powerful. It's about being subservient to your digital life.
That's a very modern theme. So he's trying to move beyond just writing about relationships.
He is. He's trying to grapple with bigger societal ideas.
Yeah.
Which is commendable.
So here's my question. If the album is pleasant, it's professionally made, it's got some depth, why did it finish third? What exactly is a pedestrian moment?
That is the perfect question, and the answer comes right back to the Quest's methodology. A pedestrian moment is basically a track that's just there. It's filler. It's forgettable, maybe a bit derivative.
It doesn't do anything wrong, but it doesn't do anything exciting either.
Exactly, and the critique is that while Moon Landing is a pleasant album, it has a couple of pedestrian moments that don't add much. And when you are listening repeatedly and comparing it side by side with other albums, that's fatal.
Those moments just drag the whole average down, especially when your competition is Eminem and Lady Gaga,
who are operating at this incredibly high attention-grabbing level. Pleasantness just isn't enough. An album has to demand your attention in this format, either through sheer audacity or technical brilliance.
And Moon Landing just didn't do that.
No. The final assessment really nails this. The author says that in a different group, a weaker group, This album might have easily progressed.
And not this one.
Not against the immense gravitational pull of Gaga and Eminem. So metaphorically, the album was
Lost in Space.
Lost in Space. It secured the 3rd spot. It wasn't a failure of quality necessarily. It was a failure of scale. It was simply outgunned.
Right. Which brings us to the albums that did progress. We're in the heavyweight division now, starting with 2nd place, Eminem and the Marshall Mathers LP2.
And we go from an album that was maybe too safe to one that is defined by its ambition, by the huge, huge expectations it put on itself. This album is a statement.
But it's also wrapped up in controversy from the very beginning, just because of its name.
We have to start there. The name itself. The source calls it a ballsy move, and I don't think you can describe it any other way.
I mean, to call it the Marshall Mathers LP2, 14 years after the original, that's not just a sequel title, it's a challenge.
It absolutely is. It's a strategic choice that basically forces everyone, fans, critics, the Quest author, to make a direct comparison.
And you're not just comparing it to any album. The original MMLP is. It's a landmark.
Yeah.
The author calls it a true masterpiece and easily Eminem's finest long player.
It's seen by many as untouchable, the absolute peak of his career. So when you decide to make a sequel to that,
You're inviting the backlash?
immediately, the author even anticipates the criticism he's going to hear. Not worthy of the name, not in the same league. Eminem had to know that was coming.
They walked right into it,
Yeah.
which kind of makes you wonder, why do it?
I think it's pure defiance. It's part of his brand, right? He's no stranger to courting controversy. He's basically daring you to say it's not as good.
It's a power move.
It is. And he had the track record to back it up. I mean, this isn't some new artist. By the time MMLP2 came out, he already had 10 #1 albums on the Billboard 200.
He had earned the right to take that risk.
He had the commercial and artistic credibility to withstand the inevitable criticism. He just didn't care what people would say.
To really understand the scale of that risk, though, we have to talk about the original album from 2000.
Yeah.
The numbers are just mind-blowing.
They're essential. This isn't just about a successful album, it's about a cultural phenomenon. The original Marshall Mathers LP sold 1.76 million copies.
In its first week.
In 1 week. It's a number that's almost hard to comprehend now. It totally redefined what a hip-hop album could do commercially.
And it breaks some major records in the process, didn't it?
2 huge ones. First, it became the fastest-selling hip-hop album ever, beating Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style. That put him at the very top of his own genre.
But the second record is the one that really shows its crossover power.
That's the one. It became the fastest-selling solo album in U.S. history, period. It outsold Britney Spears' Baby one more time.
Think about that. A dark, violent, controversial rap album sold more, faster, than the biggest pop star on the planet at the time.
That's the context. The first album wasn't just music, it was a cultural event. So 14 years later, MMLP2 wasn't just competing with a great album, it was competing with history.
It's an insane amount of pressure, and yet it still managed to get second place in this group.
It did. It survived that pressure by, well, acknowledging the past but refusing to be a slave to it.
So let's get into the album itself. What was Eminem's stated goal? Why call it a sequel?
His reason was that he wanted to revisit the spirit of that first album. He wanted to tap back into that raw, unhinged, slim, shady energy.
Okay, so did he pull it off?
That's the million-dollar question. And the author's take is really nuanced. He says that even though there are all these clever references and callbacks to the first LP, at its core, MMLP2 is really a sonic continuation of his contemporary style. It's much more in line with his previous album, Recovery.
That is a crucial distinction. So it's a sequel in name and spirit, but not really in sound.
Exactly. The sound of the original MMLP was often very minimalist, very dark, that classic Dr. Dre production. It was lean and mean.
And the lyrics were all about those fictional, violent, Slim Shady stories.
The sound on MMLP2 is very different. The author describes it as more hardcore rap. It's way more complex structurally.
More complex how?
You've got these bountiful lyrical passages. The rhyme schemes are denser. There are more syllables crammed into every line. It's less about the simple shock value and more about showing off pure technical skill.
A lyrical showcase.
Absolutely. And the themes have matured, too. There's more honesty and less sensationalism.
So less of the cartoonish violence.
Way less. The Slim Shady persona is still there, but it takes a backseat to more autobiographical stuff. He's talking about his life, his mom, his daughter, with the kind of honesty that just wasn't there in the early days.
The author says the songs are fuller, more realized, with less of the juvenile silliness.
Yeah. The shock has been replaced by structured introspection. And that maturity is probably why it did so well in the Quest. He's trading that instant, visceral shock for a depth that you can listen to again and again.
It rewards the repeated listening that the format demands.
He's showing he can evolve and still be a master of the craft. And despite all that pressure, the author concludes that the album is, at times, just brilliant.
He says it has songs that can stand up against anything he's done. That's high praise.
It is, and those high points are why it secured second place.
We should definitely spend some time on those peaks. Let's start with the track Legacy.
Legacy is the perfect example of that new thematic depth. The author calls it a powerful, semi-autobiographical take on his early days.
He describes him as a mentally drifting youngster.
Yeah, it's this really intimate story about the struggle and the drive that took him from a trailer park to being a global superstar. It's vulnerable in a way the original MMLP almost never was.
Okay, and then you have a track like Berserk, total tonal shift.
Complete shift. That's the big, loud single. It's a fresh, contemporary, anthemic fusion of rock and rap. It's got that huge, aggressive energy. It feels modern, but it serves the same purpose as the big singles from the first album.
But the real centerpiece of the album, the track that probably guaranteed it would advance, is Rap God.
Oh, without a doubt. The source calls it an awe-inspiring performance, and that's not an exaggeration.
Let's unpack awe-inspiring here. What is he doing on that track?
It's basically a 6-minute masterclass in rapping. The breath control, the shifting speeds, the complex rhymes. It's just a showcase of everything he can do.
And then there's that super fast section.
Yeah, the part where he breaks the record for the most words in a hit single. It's not just that it's fast, it's that it's still so precise and clear. It's a statement. He's basically saying, I am still the best at this.
So even if you don't think the album lives up to the original's legacy,
you cannot deny the skill on display, and that's why it progressed. The author admits there are a couple of weaker moments, but the sheer technical brilliance of a track like Rap God and the maturity of Legacy make it a strong hip-hop record.
And he says it's probably better than his last album, Recovery.
Which is saying something. It earned its second place through pure, undeniable talent.
Okay, so after all that technical brilliance, all that history, we arrive at the winner of Group 190, the album that beat Eminem, Lady Gaga's Art Pop.
And this victory, I think, tells you so much about the author's personal taste and what ultimately wins in this quest.
It feels like a tiebreaker, almost.
It is. It proves that when you have two incredible albums, the winner is often the one that provides the most immediate, infectious joy. And that's what perfectly engineered pop music does.
She didn't win by being more complex. She won with charisma.
Sheer, perfectly executed charisma. But first, you have to talk about her work rate. ARTPOP came out just 2 years after Born This Way.
Which was a massive success. That's a quick turnaround in pop. You risk burning out.
Or just repeating yourself. But she didn't. The author calls ARTPOP another winner.
And he credits her meticulous songwriting abilities. I love that word, meticulous.
It's perfect, isn't it? It suggests it's not an accident. This is craft. This is calculation. These are exceptionally good pop songs that are built to succeed.
He lists a few standout tracks, the real winners in the group.
He does. Venus, Manicure, and of course, the big single, Applause. These are the songs that have the instant appeal and the replay value that James Blunt was missing.
And that Silverstein's intensity couldn't sustain.
A great pop hook is designed for repetition. It's often more durable in a format like this than, say, a dense 6-minute rap verse.
Now, the author brings up the inevitable comparison to Madonna.
You can't not. She's the benchmark for this kind of ambitious, boundary-pushing pop. He even says the title track, Art Pop, sounds a bit like a Madonna tribute.
But he doesn't mean that as a criticism, right? It's more of an observation.
It's acknowledging the lineage. But he immediately points out how Gaga makes it her own through the quality of the production.
He gets very sensory with his description. He says you audibly bathe in the contemporary, high-quality production of this record.
Audibly bathe. I love that. It means the sound is just huge, immersive, flawless. It's an expensive-sounding album, and it rewards you for listening closely on good headphones.
And that leads him to recognize its subtle musical genius in places. So it's not just dumb fun, it's smart.
Polished, but smart. And then we get to the author's very extreme descriptions of the album's effect.
Yes. For its catchiness, he compares it to what?
He says it's more catchy than the Ebola virus.
Okay. We have to pause on that one.
Okay.
That's an intense analogy.
It is, but it's so memorable. It communicates this idea of instant, unstoppable transmission. The hooks get in your brain and you can't get them out. It's a dark but funny way of saying these are aggressive earworms.
And then there's the audacity of the lyrics.
Paired with the catchiness, yes. He quotes one line that made him smile. "Don't you know my ass is famous?"
Which on the surface just sounds silly.
But it's not. It's perfectly self-aware, it's theatrical, it's pop music about being a pop star, and it's delivered with a total wink to the audience. That combination of meticulous craft and just unapologetic fun is what pushed it to the top.
But he does admit it's not a perfect album.
No, he's very clear about that. He says it's not perfect, and probably less perfect than Born This Way. This quest isn't about finding perfection.
And he pinpoints the weakest link very specifically.
He does. The track Jewels and Drugs. This was her attempt at a full-on hip-hop road, and he just hated it. He calls it possibly the weakest song she's ever done.
So why does her attempt at genre hopping fail so badly when Eminem's rock-rap fusion on Berserk works?
That's a great question. I think it suggests that her specific persona, that theatrical maximalist pop delivery, just doesn't translate well to gritty, hard-edged hip-hop. It felt inauthentic in her catalog.
But here's the thing. That one weak track didn't sink the album, whereas the pedestrian moments on James Blunt's album were part of why he lost.
Exactly. Gaga's high points were so incredibly high that they could absorb one major low point. The overall experience was still a massive net positive.
He also mentions a shift in her lyrics towards more explicit content.
And this had a practical effect on his listening. He had to censor this album from the small child, his 5-year-old daughter.
It's an interesting point. Her visual style has always been provocative, but when the explicit language is right there in the song, it changes how and where you can listen to it.
It shows that even a winning album can present these kinds of real-world challenges for the listener.
So after all that, we get to the final rationale. How did this flawed but brilliant pop album beat Eminem's technical masterpiece?
The author is completely upfront about it. It comes down to one simple, subjective truth. He admits he is a sucker for a good pop song, and ARTPOP has several of them.
That one phrase explains the entire methodology of the album quest, doesn't it?
It's the key. When you have two albums that are both, in their own way, operating at a genius level, personal taste becomes the final judge.
The immediate pleasure of a great pop hook just outweighed the dense, challenging brilliance of Eminem's work in a repeated listening scenario.
It did. The author even throws in this funny little theory connecting the two artists.
Oh, about the Eminem and Rihanna song, I'm Friends with the Monster.
Yeah, he jokes that the monster Eminem is talking about might actually be Lady Gaga herself from the Fame Monster era.
It's a cute way of acknowledging that they're both these massive figures in the same musical universe.
It is. But the final praise for Gaga is all business. He says she has exceeded expectations once again. Her vocals have never sounded better. The material is fresh. She's mixing styles.
He says she's on course to be one of the greatest pop performers of all time.
High praise. And finally, he defends the album's lyrical focus on her own famous lifestyle. He pushes back against any idea that it's self-absorbed.
With that fantastic quote, "One can only write from the heart about what one has experienced firsthand, darling."
It's the perfect defense of her authenticity. Her life is fame and spectacle, so that's what she writes about. And that honesty, combined with that incredible production, is what gave her the win.
So what does this all mean? After unpacking this one group, what does it tell us about the quest and how we should think about ranking music?
Let's just run down the final rankings one more time, just to have it clear. In fourth, Silverstein's Ackerman, When Broken is Easily Fixed.
Third place went to James Blunt's Moon Landing.
And progressing, in second place, Eminem's The Marshall Mathers LP2. And the winner of Group 190, Lady Gaga's ARTPOP.
And the big takeaway for you, the listener, has to be that clash at the top. You had Eminem with all the weight of history and his undeniable technical skill.
And then you had Gaga with the immediate, subjective, joyful reward of a perfect pop song. Enjoy one.
It shows that technical skill, even at an awe-inspiring level like on Rap God, doesn't always beat an infectious, perfectly built pop song, especially when the judge admits to being a sucker for a good pop song.
The pleasure principle won out over the technical principle, and we also saw how context was just fatal for the other two.
Right. James Blunt's album was too pleasant, too in the middle to make an impact. And Eminem's decision to name his album a sequel might have actually cost him first place.
Yeah.
Because it forced a comparison to an impossible standard.
It proves that we almost never listen to music in a vacuum. All that external stuff matters.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to take away from all this. This whole album quest, this group in particular, it suggests that raw artistic energy and audacity, that ability to just hook you with one perfect song, that can be more powerful than consistent quality or historical importance.
So when you look at these results, you have the flawed but infectious art pop beating the technically brilliant MMLP2. And that really forces you to ask a question about your own listening habits.
What determines your final ranking? Is it the highest high point? That one song that just blows you away and you have to listen to it again and again, even if the album has some weak spots?
Or is it the most consistent overall quality? The album that never has a bad track, even if it never quite reaches those same stratospheric peaks.
The author of the album quest clearly chose the highest high point. He showed that one incredible peak, especially a pop one, can conquer almost anything.
Something to think about.
For sure. We'll leave you with that. Until the next album quest.